This week on TIFF Long Take, is artificial intelligence good for the future of film?
To find out, we talked to the founder of SCRIPTBOOK, Nadira Azermai.
And I did research for about a year and really stumbled upon some amazing research, but also facts that I was pretty much astonished about. For example, I learned that this industry, which is, I think, over 100 years old now, has been making decisions the same way as 100 years ago. Nothing had changed. And especially the most astonishing fact was the fact was actually that movies failed in a large amount. I mean, almost 90% of movies were failing financially at the box office. And I thought that was a huge number, especially because there wasn't any objective metrics. In 100 years, people are still deciding, making decisions, greenlighting projects the same way, using their human expertise, their gut feelings.
Hello and welcome to TIFF Long Take. I am Rob Kraszewski.
And I am Geoff Macnaughton.
And TIFF Long Take is the show where we talk to the smartest people in film and television about what, why, and how we watch. Geoff, if you were a powerful Hollywood executive, what would be your ideal tool to aid in your decision-making?
Yeah, I guess the tool that I'd want is a time machine. And really, I'd use it to go into the future, bring up Box Office Mojo, understand how these films are doing, and then produce said films.
Okay, so basically you're going for a full Back to the Future 2.
Yeah,
right?
I'm biffing it.
You're biffing it. You're going to figure out who wins the World Series of film, you're going to bet a ton of money on it, and you're going to become a wealthy man.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, while your idea is insane and not plausible, there's a kernel of truth to it, right? Because despite the fact that there's all these incredibly smart minds working on film and development and spending an absurd amount of money, at the end of the day, it's a gamble, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's no way to truly predict the success of a film until now.
Oh.
Ooh is right. And that is why I'm excited about our guest today, and that is Nadira Azermai. She is the founder of SCRIPTBOOK, which is an artificial intelligence-driven service that claims to be able to predict the success of a film at script stage.
Yeah, we talked to her about her 84% track record of predicting the success of a film, how the Me Too movement has influenced SCRIPTBOOK, and if computers will replace screenwriters altogether.
All right, so we're very happy today to have Nadira Azermai, the CEO and founder of SCRIPTBOOK, on the show. Nadira, thanks for taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Well, I mean, we're really excited because we're very interested in SCRIPTBOOK, and I'm hoping that you could just give us a little bit of the history. Like, tell us how SCRIPTBOOK started.
Okay, sure. Well, SCRIPTBOOK. The conception of SCRIPTBOOK happened actually a decade ago. I was looking for a topic for my master's thesis, and I started to dig in predictive models, financial models, and for some reason ended up within the film industry. And I did research for about a year and really stumbled upon some amazing research, but also facts that I was pretty much astonished about. For example, I learned that this industry, which is, I think, over 100 years old now, has been making decisions the same way as 100 years ago. Nothing had changed. And especially the most astonishing fact was the fact was actually that movies failed in a large amount. I mean, almost 90% of movies were failing financially at the box office. And I thought that was a huge number, especially because there wasn't any objective metrics. In 100 years, people are still deciding, making decisions, greenlighting projects the same way, using their human expertise, their gut feelings. So, and I wanted to do, I wanted to change that. I really wanted to come up with a solution for this problem that many people were aware of, except for a large amount of people working in the industry. For some reason, they were blind to this problem. So when I was digging into the research, I found a lot of, Ivy League universities were also researching the topic, trying to forecast box office performance. But the thing is, every university was trying to predict financial performance on parameters that were known after production of a certain movie. So the thing is, when you make a movie, when you produce a film project, you want as much information as possible as early in the process, because predicting whether something will do financially well or not after the fact is not useful. It doesn't have any value. But after doing some more research, I realized the fact that why there weren't any predictive models is because there wasn't enough information in the early stages of development. All you had was a script. So you had to work with a script. That's it. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I just knew, okay, I need to find a way. How will I incorporate story features, story parameters into something that could be measured? And I did the same thing that everybody who graduates university. I just threw my thesis somewhere in a drawer and forgot about it, and went to get a real job. But for some reason, years later, I kept going back to that drawer, thinking about that I should do something with my master's thesis. I just thought it was too valuable. And in 2015, I just thought, okay, this is it. I will get the thesis out and try to to incorporate the company.
Right. So you identified a problem and a void in the industry, and SCRIPTBOOK was something that you thought could solve that. Can you talk a little bit about exactly what SCRIPTBOOK does?
Yes. So SCRIPTBOOK actually is a hardcore AI company. This is our core business. We do artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing, deep learning, all these fancy words which pretty much just mean AI. And we use these AI tools, these AI techniques to build predictive models for scripted content. So we really try to build algorithms that are text-based, that are giving information, predictive information on a script level.
Okay, and you tested, correct me if I'm wrong, but you tested 62 films released by Sony between 2015 and 2017, and retroactively identified 22 out of 32 Sony films that had lost money in that period. So what were some of the things that SCRIPTBOOK was identifying?
Well, first of all, the proof of value that we did for Sony wasn't just about the Sony movies. We had a representative data set of movies released by studios. So all the big six released by studios between 2015 and 2017. And the proof of value was actually seeing whether we would greenlight everything, or would we spot the movies that flopped. And the results are, as actually reported on our website as well, we identified out of the 32 flops, 22 false positives, that were given a green light by studios. So in that sense, this was a study done retroactively. But I have to say that it's not just about retroactively doing a proof of values. At this point, even with our current user base, whenever we analyze a portfolio of scripts for a certain company, we do post-mortem analysis as well. For example, we reported to one of our clients last week a post-mortem analysis, which was a portfolio of 40 scripts that we analyzed late 2016 up until the first quarter of 2017. A lot of those movies came out either theatrically or video on demand, and we did an analysis again to just see whether the 84% accuracy on greenlighting would stand the test of time. And yes, this is our accuracy. The greenlighting accuracy is still 84%. So it's not just retroactively, but also proactively.
Right. So if I'm a producer and I'm, thinking, like, using your service and thinking about films that I'm going to greenlight, like, are there specific data points or like signifiers that producers should be looking for?
Well, that's a really good question, but it has such a complex answer in the sense that, movies, scripts could fail in a million ways. That's the thing. You could have a great script with terrible execution, or you could have an okay script with a perfect execution. So there are too many parameters that make or break a script. What we identified is that a script does have a high predictive value, but it's not everything. It's not everything. And for example, what I can say is we did a lot of research. It's not just building a product. It's also a lot of research studies that are going on within the company. And for example, the gender equality measure was something that we stumbled upon just by coincidence. We thought, let's see whether movies are gender equal. And the research that we finished last November in 2017 was basically we went through a whole data set to see from 1980 up until now to see how gender equal are movies. And we found in 1980, 25% of movies were gender equal. With gender equal, I mean they passed the Bechdel test, which is not everything, but it is a starting point. And if you look at movies in 2017, only 43% passed the Bechdel test. In 36 years, it's not really a big increase, despite the fact that research again shows that strong female leads, strong female roles do far better at the box office. But it's still something that's not being jumped on by producers. That's one thing. We also noticed that scripts that do have a richness in vocabulary, it's also a metric in the back end, that those scripts tend to be also more qualitative in the sense that they have a higher financial value. So these elements are definitely metrics that we spot.
So just going back to the gender equality piece, so are you saying that producers and executives are still underestimating the impact of diversity and gender parity when predicting the box office success of a film?
Absolutely. I mean, let's not forget, a lot of people know the Bechdel test and they use it, but the Bechdel test doesn't cover everything because it's really just, a simple test where two named females having a conversation with each other about something else than a man. You could have an action crime movie with male domination and throw in two females who talk in one scene about nail polish, and you would still pass the Bechdel test. So for us, it's not just that. The additional metrics that we offer are also insights in gender disparities in the script, such as the inter and intra-gender interactions. How much do they interact with each other, male, female, female, male, etc. But also, more importantly, is we have this stereotypicality measure that indicates whether actions performed by each gender are they in line with stereotypical behavior? So it's not just having two females talking to each other about something else than a man. So this is, for example, something that's really interesting is that also there's a lot of bias into gender equality. Maybe sometimes I have actually production companies telling me that certain scripts will definitely pass the gender equality measure because it has females in it and they have a lot of dialogue, and then when the system starts processing, they fail. So it's definitely something that people overlook in the business, and producers definitely overlook the fact that females in movies and female leads in movies just draw a far bigger crowd.
I'd love to go back to just sort of thinking about blind spots and thinking about what producers should be looking for a second, because other than diversity, which you mentioned before, like, are there specific things that you think that producers need to know about, or they're like missing when they're looking at these scripts that perhaps you're able to glean from the ScriptBook system?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a question that whenever I'm presenting on a film market or a film festival, everybody comes over and asks the same question. What are the parameters that will make my script successful? Mm-hmm. And it's a very difficult question because the thing is, AI is at some extent, it's a black box. It takes, for example, just to predict financial performance, it takes almost 300 parameters into account, and it's a black box. It's something that we as humans, it's not just we will tell you, for example, this parameter and this parameter and this parameter. If you have these elements in your script, you'll have for sure a financial hit. It doesn't go like that. It's it's a total package. It's 300 parameters, and they all have different weights, and it's not just one predictive model. You have your script model, which sees whether your script, just the text, has predictive value. Is it interesting enough commercially? Then once you add a certain movie package or a cast, it uses a different model. It uses the script cast model, again, a new black box. So it's impossible for us just to name parameters, for example, and tell you if you have this in your script, you'll have a financial success. But we can tell you that, for example, we found that the emotion analysis of characters is an important one. It always gets selected among the highest ranking features, which means that emotional analysis, so basically characters that have personalities, interesting personalities, do well in predicting or correlate well with financial performance.
It's interesting because, we're talking a lot about the output, right? But from a sort of pre-production perspective, it seems like ScriptBook is giving a solution that kind of negates the importance of, script readers or focus groups in a lot of ways. And I'm wondering if you take it a step further, do you think that we'll get to a point where we're using AI to write the scripts themselves? Like, does that seem like a logical future to you?
Well, I'll answer first the first half of your question. We built the solution to really help the industry adopt emerging technologies. It's never been the case in which we want to get rid of people in this industry. We think of this technology as being complementary to human expertise. The industry as AI is making its way in every field, in every industry. Studios are even merging in order to have a competitive advantage with all the new players, such as Netflix and Amazon. These are companies, data companies by core. How will other companies have a competitive advantage or survive if they are not using emerging technologies? So that's one thing. It's adopting emerging technologies to your own benefit. Secondly, about whether AI will be able to write scripts, of course, it's already happening. A couple of universities have worked together and did AI-generated scripts. Our company has been working for the last 18 months on generating scripted content. We are able to create a script, of course. But the thing is that AI-generated scripts will never be human. Because there is, you can see that it's written by machines because it does really funny things in the sense that you will have a character that is alive for the first 6 scenes, and then all of a sudden it drops dead, and then by scene 12 you have John being alive again. So it's not coherent.
So what you're saying is machines don't have a concept of mortality, and therefore they can never write good scripts.
Well, good scripts, that depends on the definition of good. I think AI is capable of writing highly entertaining scripts. But and it's definitely a new genre, I think, that will probably be released in the next decade, which will be the AI genre and cater to a certain moviegoers public, which are probably young guys into technology, who love games and all of that. But it's definitely happening. It's not because AI isn't capable of writing coherent storylines today that it won't be able to do that within 2 or 3 years.
As we see the impact of these, not only these case studies, but as studios start to use data more and more and AI, should audiences be worried of a certain loss of originality?
Absolutely not. I think even companies, are using data to their own benefit, and it's always the question. We get this question again many times: will AI will it just green light movies that follow a certain formula? It's not the case, because first of all, when it comes to originality, it's the studies studies actually reveal that stories that stand the test of time tend to share common structural elements. If you look back, you'll find that George Pulte has written this research study in 1895 saying that basically all dramatic situations in each and every story can be brought back to a prototype out of a list of 36 distinct situations. So even highly original stories will seldom deviate, strongly from a common core. And structure and story are definitely linked. And structure can be learned by AI. So no, they don't have to fear that we will only watch Fast and Furious 100. No way.
I'm always worried about that, to be honest.
Yeah, that is my consistent waking nightmare.
I completely understand, but I can tell you for sure it's not going to be a future where we'll see only sequels and all of that. No way.
So we talked a lot about the predictive success of ScriptBook, and I'm wondering if there's an example of a script that it completely missed the mark on that you could give us.
Yes, of course. I mean, we're from perfect, and there are definitely interesting projects that we gave, a box office which was far from the reality. For example, I, Tonya was nominated for an Oscar, and it did, for example, I think around 30 million domestically, and we predicted only 60 million for I, Tonya. This is definitely something that we missed. The Shack, another example. The Shack did extremely well, did about 60 million box office. We predicted roughly 30 million. So we were off by these movies. Even the Hitman's Bodyguard, which had Ryan Reynolds in it, we predicted 49. It actually made 75. So there are definitely examples where ScriptBook was off. But then you have the other side, which is ScriptBook was spot on with movies like The Big Sick. The Big Sick made 42 million. We predicted 40 million. The Disaster Artist, for example, ScriptBook was spot on. It did 21. We predicted 20.5. So, and La La Land, I love to use La La Land because La La Land was an atypical movie in the sense, that it's a contemporary musical, a bit strange, and people were not sure what to think of it. And I remember Lionsgate said, Lionsgate produced it, and they were so uncertain of La La Land that they gave up 25% equity because they were so unsure. When we analyzed La La Land, we predicted 68 or 69 million. It made a whopping 150. So we were off by that. But the core is that it had a production budget of 20 million. And we predicted nearly 70 million, which means we gave it a green light and we gave it actually a high return on investment. So despite the fact that we were off by the actual box office, we still predicted a damn good return on investment.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about who some of your studio or distributor clients are as of yet?
Yes, I can tell you that our user base is very diverse in the sense that we have film festivals, which you wouldn't expect, but even film festivals are a part of our user base. We have film finance companies. We have distributors. Production companies are just a few, not that many. For some reason, production companies haven't found us yet. And then a couple of studios. As you understand, I'm not allowed to say names because we're under NDAs. But I can say that the user base really diverse. And to be honest, I never focused. For example, in the early beginnings of ScriptBook, I never focused on film festivals. And for some reason, they became also a user base.
So, ScriptBook is just one example of how AI is impacting the film business. And I'm wondering if there's other areas of development or production or the business in general that you can see AI changing in the near future.
Well, I think AI has been making such an impact on different levels in many fields, and people in the industry in the film industry always thought it's going to impact everything except the creative industry because we are talking about something creative. We're talking about art, and AI is not capable of casting judgment upon creative works, which is obviously not the case. It is able. And when it comes to AI changes, I'm not going to elaborate on VR or AR because that's really not my field. But I will say, as I mentioned earlier, the whole AI generated content. If you look, I'm not sure if you watched on YouTube the conference that was given by AT&T and Warner Brothers a few weeks ago in LA on the Warner Brothers lot. It was about AI generation of content. So I think it's definitely a thing, and it's going to become even bigger. For now, and I'm just using a SCRIPTBOOK as an example, part of our team is working on this AI generation of storylines, of scripts. This means that maybe in the future, you should just imagine this, where you have writers, they will never have a writer block, because when you use this AI engine and you are writing and you're at page 30 and you have no inspiration whatsoever, the AI generator takes into account all your previous scenes and will use them. It recognizes topics and it will use them to generate your next scene. As a writer, you'll be able to have this inspiration generator, which will help you to continue your writing process, whether it's one script or whether it's a season that you're writing. So I definitely see in the future, in the near future, a collaboration between machines and man, for sure, in the creation process.
So you've talked about why creators should be excited about this kind of future, and why distributors and studios should be, in terms of understanding the data and the monetary value associated to it. But why should audiences be excited?
Audiences. I think, first of all, audiences want to be entertained. That's one thing. We have already a declining moviegoers audience, meaning that it becomes even tougher and harder to attract people into theaters. So you have to make your movies appealing. And it doesn't mean that we have to chew out even more tentpoles. I think a few years ago, people were talking about the franchise fatigue. I think we're still fatigued by now. It's time. I think it's time that we really bring out exciting content, original content, take more risk in the sense that we want to see gender equal movies, movies that only have females for a change. We want to see diversity in movies. I don't think we live in 2018. It shouldn't be a huge surprise that Black Panther came out. It's time. It's 2018, for God's sake. So I think we should listen to what lives among people, what's alive within communities, what's alive within countries, what really intrigues them and will bring them to theaters. And AI could definitely help in that case. AI, is unbiased. And I think we should use it to our own benefit and really try to tell stories that are entertaining using AI, for sure.
Right on. Well, Nadira, thank you so much. This is all super, super interesting, and the work you're doing is incredible, and we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you both. Thanks so much.
Big thanks to Nadira for sitting down with us. Geoff, what's your take?
Well, first off, I think that Nadira is really filling a void that and presenting something that studios are really looking for. But at the same time, the film lover in me is skeptical in that of losing the originality in film's content. If AI is telling us what screenplays are going to be more successful than others, I do worry that we're going to see the same content over and over again. And also, the screenplay is one element to the success of a film, or how good it is. There's so many other variables that this isn't really taking into account. So, that's kind of what I've taken away from it.
Right. I guess my counterpoint to that would be that, Hollywood in general is super risk averse, and it's been super risk averse. And you can only, you can look to the box office to see that bear itself out, right? Like, we have so many sequels and so much sort of universe IP where people are, going to see Avengers 39 or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And so if this ends up being an alternative, right? Mm-hmm. If we're able to somehow use AI to, convince decision makers that we can actually have original ideas, or ideas that don't actually have to exist in sort of a consistent universe across, 15 or so films. I'm I'm okay with that, right? Like I'm like very, very supportive of the idea that we can, almost leverage like executives' risks aversion against themselves a little bit so that they actually are pushed to make more creative decisions.
Right. So for instance, if it's an original story or an original idea but has a structure that is either more classic, or whether this system is saying that, this film will do well, even though it's a little off kilter or a little strange. And well, I guess it's like any tool. It's all about how you use it. So hopefully studios use this right and make some great films out of it.
And with that, we will throw it to social. Where else do you think artificial intelligence could help in the film industry? You can tweet at us at TIFF_net. Don't say podcast hosts, because that would be very upsetting to both Geoff and I.
Yeah, next week we're going to test out me hosting with a computer, and I have high expectations of it.